I would venture a guess that if you hear the term old-fashioned, you would think, isn't that kind of like a hat on a hat? Or maybe there's another way of saying this. How can an old drink be called the old-fashioned? Isn't it like the first cocktail? And to that, I would say it very much isn't. Now, what could be pinpointed as the first cocktail is arguably similar in a lot of respects to what the old fashioned is at its core, just with the use of water instead of ice, just because ice wasn't explicitly common in drinks. And for a good long while, if you wanted a mixed drink of any real kind, it would be made primarily warm, and even like early old fashions were made without ice. But there came, following the first kind of introduction of a cocktail, this idea of an improved cocktail. So just the basic idea of a cocktail was just some bitters, sugar, maybe some citrus peel, and then your spirit. Then, as ingredients were added to the equation, we have this introduction of something that is described as the improved cocktail. And that's introducing things like maraschino liqueur, absinthe, although this is absente, which is not really the same thing. In some cases, vermouth. Just all of these things being added to the drink, already with your bitters and your sugar. It became a thing of, I think, exemplifying why in a lot of cases less is more, because just by adding all of these ingredients, you're not making an improved cocktail. I mean, in this case, we're making an improved whiskey cocktail because that's what it's called. But comparatively, I would not say that I enjoy this drink more than just an old-fashioned. However, having said that, this is the first time that I will be making this drink, and I'm just kind of going to be doing it the Jeffrey way. So we're going to start out by putting a bourbon-soaked sugar cube into our glass, throwing in some Angostura bitters, really any bitters, but following that, I'm now going to add in 2 hearty dashes of orange bitters. If you had access to other bitters, I would say use whatever bitters you have on hand. My idea with this drink is really just go with a variety of ingredients. Adding in a dash of absinthe, although in this equation I'm just going to put in a bar spoon of our Absente, which I believe is different enough that any respectable drinker of absinthe would kind of scoff at me for even remotely going with something like this, but this was really my only option, and I've had this bottle for so long, and I've had no reason to use it, so better in this than just have it sitting around in my mind. Next up, I'm going to take some sweet vermouth, add in a little bit under half a capful, add that into the equation, and then I'm going to take 1.5 ounces of my Angel's Envy rye, finished in Caribbean rum casks. And then I'm going to take more like 1/2 ounce of my Whistle Pig 12-year-old that was finished in Madeira, Franche-Comté, as well as port barrels, before, of course, adding in about 1/4 ounce of Luxardo of Maraschino Liqueur. Really, just about anything could be added into this. If you had triple sec, that would have worked. This drink is basically, hey, you got some ingredients, throw it into this glass and see what happens. Really, any kind of base spirit could be used. I'm going down the path of using whiskey just because I primarily drink whiskey on the channel. I thought about doing it with cognac just because I haven't done any cocktails with cognac yet. But we'll save that for another day. Until then, I'm just going to give this drink more of a stir, primarily because of the fact that we, instead of using simple syrup, used a crushed sugar cube, breaking up some of those little bits and just kind of bringing it together as a whole is, I don't know, sometimes a little bit helpful in the drinking experience. Now, with that said, having the texture of crushed sugar in a drink is immensely satisfying, at least for me. It provides just a lot of interesting, how do I say this? It provides interesting clumps of flavor to the drink instead of just having a concentrated simple syrup in the equation. Also, it's incredibly easier to do. Comparatively, what I would compare it to, that was a horrible way of saying that, but what I would compare this practice to is the notion of using finishing salt on steak. So instead of having, you know, salt all over, you'll get like these clumps of salt. Now, of course, with a steak, you're not really necessarily going to have to mix everything up. But with a cocktail, it is sometimes nice to have a little more cohesion, even if you do have these granules of sugar in the equation. Yeah, it has a very interesting aroma. Of course, the rye is coming out of the drink. Everything is really coming out of the glass to me, but I'm really getting those orange bitters. Ooh. This is very sweet. Would I say I'll take this over an old-fashioned still? Probably not. But this is the first time that I've ever had anything called the improved whiskey cocktail. Traditionally, this is served with some kind of citrus peel, generally a lemon skin. But since I did not have any on hand, I decided to forego that for maximum flavor. And by maximum flavor, I just mean no citrus peel. Yeah, that didn't quite make sense, but yeah, this is a drink. I definitely enjoyed it more than the last cocktail that I made. That is for sure. Yeah, I recommend, if you're interested in the history of cocktails, giving this a try. This, I would argue, does go underappreciated. And yeah, that's about it for me. I've been Jeffrey Patron. If you liked the video, you could always subscribe. I'm going to include links to previous episodes of Cocktails with Jeffrey, and of course a link to really, I don't know how to describe it, but a video that's best for you in the audience who is most likely not watching this. So yeah, have a decent day, and let's get this week off to a good start. Bye ya.